That's something that's really near and dear to me because it is me. It is my DNA. It is what thrives and drives me. And that is what's going on in Indian country. So those of you who only know me through cannabis, you don't know that my business has been around for 23 years, that it was birthed on the Salish Kootenai Nation in a peyote meeting through the fire. And the reason why it's called Firebird Touch Therapy is because it's an opportunity for us to be consumed by our own personal fire and raised to something greater. So before California and before cannabis, well, cannabis has always been kind of like for always in my life. I was in Montana working in Indian country and, learning how to put policy and procedure in place, how to create industry on reservations, working in those kind of ways with tribal elders and, just everyday human beings on the res, just trying to make something happen. And you might think that it's business as usual, but it isn't. Indian country is a definitely different beat. And now here in the cannabis industry in California, we have hit some big challenges as indigenous people. And throughout the country, as the cannabis conversation evolves, it doesn't evolve the same way on Indian country. So just a little example of a story. About 7 or 8 years ago, we were here in California and we had heard, Montana went legal and we were like, yay, we're going to go back home. We're going to process on the reservation. We're going to grow on the res. We got a U-Haul. We let go of our rent, our rental. We were like ready to roll. And then my dear friend, who was a tribal judge, called me and said, don't come back here and put that grow up on this reservation because we're too afraid to lose our government contracts if you start growing or anybody starts growing or we start processing or we have cannabis. Now, we were upset, but if you have to take a minute and step back and understand that there's a lot of things in Indian country that go with addiction and affliction. So the education of cannabis as medicine, even though it's been indigenous to our people and our culture for always and since always, it has been slathered and slashed and destroyed through colonialism and alcoholism. So we have to restore that balance. And today I have with me an awesome warrior, a super amazing man, Blue Quisquis, and he, did I say it right? Quisquis? I love it. I love it. Quisquis. Like, his name just makes me happy. Blue Quisquis. And he is like a party. So as soon as we flip the camera around and you see him, you're going to be just like me, super excited to be having the conversation. But here he is. Hey, Blue.
Hey.
Hey. So I met you at a conference somewhere where I was really impressed by the way that you were just handling the conversation about, indigenous people, tribal people doing business in the cannabis industry, and how a lot of people just want to take our mantle and be like, oh yeah, hey, I'm an Indian too. Look at my cool product. My grandmother's a Cherokee princess, right?
Yeah,
and then they
definitely.
have and I am from the Eastern Band Cherokee Nation, so I will say that however I want to whoever, because y'all think you are, but you don't even know what band you come from or how you got there. So anyways, what you're doing in Indian country is really super important to me because like you said earlier, it's not just about cannabis, it's about sustainability. It's about really healing the earth using this plant that we have.
Yep, most definitely. It's what I kind of learned is that's where everybody gets trailed off. They think it's just the plant. Yes, the plant has medicinal properties and it's very sacred and it's a very powerful plant, but it's only one aspect of really the healing overall. Because when you look at overall health and well-being, it's not just medicine or what you consume. It's, when you look at our ancestors and what they used, it was always medicinal. You had your sacred herbs and plants, but it was also what you eat too. And it's the way when you look at our food and everything that's happening with the ecosystem and all the food that's happening, while you can look at that, well, food isn't food anymore. And
right.
When you look up the definition of what food is under FDA, it's really if it's aroma and it tastes good. That's it. And it says or nutritional value.
That's what the FDA says, is it tastes good and looks good.
And smells good.
And
it
smells
doesn't
good.
necessarily mean it has nutritional value, because you look at what everything's on the shelves today, and I don't call that food. I call that food-like products.
Right. Yeah, food-like products, exactly.
So
anything in the middle of the grocery
cannabis,
store.
And with cannabis, when you look at it, it's like, hey, I'm not against rec. Everybody can use it how they wish to use it. I don't stow upon any of my beliefs or my opinions on people. It's like, hey, however you want to use it is fine. just don't ruin it for other people. You know, if we're all advocating for cannabis or hemp or food or whatever we're doing, let's make sure that it goes across the board and that we're actually not leaving anybody behind, like they have done in California with cannabis.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you were involved in gaming before. You were the vice president of the San Pasqual Gaming Commission,
Well,
right?
I was the vice chairman there before I jumped into cannabis, but before that, yeah, I started actually working in the industry since '99, but it goes back since I was a child. My dad's been in it for over 35 years.
In the gaming industry?
In the gaming industry, back before Prop 1A, before any of the compacts, when we were actually fighting for the right to have gaming on our reservation. You know, he was back in doing that. So again, as a child, I knew how to play the
So this has
games.
been like a lifelong fight for you, sincerely. Like this has been like, because like the gaming and cannabis are similar in the way that, you know, they set us up and then they said, oh, sorry, no, it's not going to exactly work like that. And that's what's happening in California with the cannabis industry right now. Correct?
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Can you just like kind of share what the political climate of what happened
Well, yeah,
this last year?
going through it, I guess, like I say, when you look at Prop 64, again, you're going to get pros and cons of everything. You know, you're never going to make everybody happy. But when it was coming out, it, again, when everybody passed it, even us on the reservation have the right to vote, and we voted for it. But then as it further went on with the regulations, lo and behold, that the state actually excluded tribes, and passed in the regulations currently says that we have to waive full sovereign immunity.
Right, now just stop for a minute, because they added that literally the night before the law passed. Like there was less than 30 days that came up in the changes. So there was no room for us to address it as a nation. There was no room for us to go forward, correct?
Yeah, and
all of a
we
sudden it was
really,
like, poof, done.
and again, like we say, we were trying to be good neighbors. We don't have to, you know, we weren't really trying to push the issue. We were just trying to have government-to-government conversations. You know, just like anybody, let's have a discussion about it. You see it one way, we see it one way, and we were just trying to work with them as we do in gaming and everything else. Let's just sit down and have a discussion about it. But when they completely said no, and then when further on denied us access, and why I say denied access is because I understand waiving full sovereign immunity. That was for the tribal government trying to get their products into the California market. I understand that. That's a whole different issue. But when you go down to the delivery service and you look up the regulation of delivery cannabis goods, they specifically prohibited licensed delivery services from delivering to reservations or individual tribal members' land. So like me being a tribal member, on my reservation, I have my own land that's my own private residence to have, the tribe has nothing to say about it, again, unless I'm doing environmental issues or something like that. But if I'm just living, it's my own private home, my own private residence. They actually prohibited licensed delivery services from delivering to the reservation unless we get exclusive granted from the tribe. Well, I look at that and go, well, if you're talking about social injustice and social inequality, and you're talking about medicinal patients, and you're talking about legalizing it like Prop 64 did, till we can have safe access. Well, now how do I get safe access to?
Right, if you're a tribal member. And why, if you're a tribal member, can you not have cannabis delivered to you? Like, why does that question our tribal sovereignty? Why all of a sudden, if we, you know, if we had gone back and done our manufacturing and growing in Montana, you know, the tribe would have been, not just us, because that's how it works with the tribe. It's not singular, it's collective, right?
Collective, yeah.
So if we went and did that and then we got in trouble or whatever, the tribe would be in jeopardy, not just me and my partner and, you know, us and the law, but the entire tribe. We would have put the entire Salish Kootenai Nation at risk by doing a grow.
Just like the casinos, yeah. I'm part of a gaming tribe, but I don't specifically own it myself. The whole nation owns it. So here what you're asking is me individually to ask my nation to pass laws specifically just for me to get a delivery to my private residence.
Right.
I mean, do we do that in California? Do we do that in another state to say, hey, can we pass laws for you? And it's like when we voted, again, I was one that I could say I voted for Prop 64 thinking, well, hey, yeah.
I'm so sorry that you did that.
Well, I mean, everybody has their opinions of which is which, but it was way to saying, okay, again, so I look at it and go, well, were we tricked? Because I voted for it going, well, I'm going to get legal safe access. Because, again, being on the reservation with the opiate crisis we have, and again, the tribe's not moving forward because of backlash, that if they aren't going to put up a facility, how do I gain access? Drive
Right.
45
If
minutes
there's-
off the reservation.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly. And so, do you think that part? I mean, I don't think that any part of that conversation about like, oh, if tribal members can't have safe, they can't have delivery systems, has anything to do with serving tribal members. It has to do with the political climate and conversation of just, the system of colonialism and the reservation system, which is antiquated for sure.
Most definitely. So,
Yeah.
like I say,
So how do we, us, me and you, do something about that? Because I know you're up to some pretty big stuff.
yeah, and like I say, when again going through gaming and seeing the fight we have and how we got it approved was, they don't have taxation and regulatory oversight over us. So again, when cannabis was passed here in California, PL 280 was no longer in force because what is criminal in nature once the state passed it. Mm-hmm. But that's where the state wanted us to waive full sovereign immunity to work within their framework. And it's like, well, wait, we're sovereign nations. And again, from that, I developed, a set of standards that I went through and working with individuals that are supply chain security, that are ISO standards from all over, not just indigenous. I mean, I've been to Canada, I've been to other states, doing community education.
And how is it comparatively, like when you were in Canada, to like the conversation in like Indian country in Canada compared to the conversation Indian country in California?
Oh, two entirely different. It was. I never been to Canada before. I mean, that was my first time. I never really been out of the country. Sent for Mexico, but I don't consider that really out of the country. Mm-hmm. And it was a different experience because it was somebody who thought just like I did, wasn't just about cannabis. I sat with a round table and the Grand Chiefs were there. And it was very simple. Like he says, if we don't all eat, it doesn't work.
Right.
It just can't be for one person. We have to look at it is, if we're going to do something, how do we all eat here? And then if we all eat, then we're all going to be happy. It's going to work for everybody. Can't just work for one tribe or one person or California or non-indigenous or indigenous. Mm-hmm. It's because when we look at Turtle Island, it encompasses Alaska, Canada, all the way down to Mexico and South America. So when you look at it all, we're looking at it from that scale going, well, how do we benefit all of us? Because when you look at the grand scheme of things, everybody's looking at cannabis and hemp as a economic development, which it is, or an industry, not really looking at, well, what's the backlash that's going to happen?
Right,
Look at
right.
the packaging. So.
Right, packaging, something as simple as that, right? Exactly. And so the super exciting conversation about hemp, and the one that really needs to be had, is industrial hemp is not medicine, but it is food, it is shelter, and it is clothing. So, and it also, when you put it in the ground, heals the ground. So there's this big disconnect, I feel, in the hemp industry on what are they about. Like because now we can have CBD, right? So it all has to be industrial though, and it's just an antioxidant. It's not a medicine, but we're not making clothes. We're not making cars. We're not making fabricated boards so we can make houses. We're not cleaning up land sites by planting hemp.
No, I mean, and that's what we're up there working on. And actually, it's we're getting close to, but that may be another show. But we're actually looking at. We've met with somebody who actually developed hemp homes, mm-hmm. and actually has it done and is willing to work with the First Nations to actually grow it, process it, manufacture it, and produce our own homes on the reservation. Because again, when you look at the housing on reservations, it doesn't work. It hasn't worked for many years.
Right, and that's because those houses are inadequate. They're, basically shanties. They don't have electricity. Very few of them have running water. I think that average American people, you guys don't have any clue how many third world countries exist in our nation. Like, I've worked on reservations for a lot of my adult life, and one of the things we did is we went down to the Mississippi Delta and worked with a group of people who were trying to, take care of their community. And when I got down to the Delta, I was like, holy freaking moly, man! The reservation is like a 5-star hotel! Like, there are people living in such subpar conditions in our country. And they have cell phones and they're watching Facebook. So hopefully they're watching this. And how can we go forward with this? Like, how can we ask for hemp products that are, like clothes, houses, cars,
Like I
fuel?
always say, it goes back to education. I mean, even speaking with up there in Canada or down here, it seems it's the same issue. That it's either a drug or they don't understand it, or it's going to get backlash, or I'm going to lose funding, and it's not. And again, they don't really understand when it comes to cannabis. Yeah, that's a whole different issue. That's Schedule 1 down here. Well, Canada, it's legalized up there. But when it comes to hemp, it was surprising that when they passed hemp here, that they actually included tribes with states. They both said if you want to do it, you have to basically come up with a plan, which
So,
is
so
unheard of.
tribally in California, you can grow hemp
Anywhere in the United States, actually.
anywhere. Okay,
Yeah.
and you can process that hemp into hard goods.
Yeah, and that's one thing we're working on with this company right now is actually licensing their technology for hemp homes down here in the United States, because again, like I say, my reservation is less than 1,400 acres originally, and it's checkerboarded, and it's on the side of the mountain, so we don't have the landmass like Navajo or Apache or some of these other tribes that can maybe grow. But again, we are in the need for homes. So there is a market there, but who's providing us homes? And when you look at what HUD provided many years ago, even on our reservation, going through it, we actually get leftovers because some of the faucets that were on outside of the houses were actually from faucets were built for back east for really snowy conditions. They didn't work out here.
Right.
So when we're here in
Right.
Southern California, we're like, well, why would you put a faucet that's intended for
Like 30 below.
30 below in Southern California? Well, again, trying to get that answer, but that ain't going to work. So here is a way and an opportunity that we can actually provide our own homes that can last and that are mold and pest resistant.
Do you think that's the biggest threat? Is that the more Indian country becomes self-sufficient, the more threatening it becomes? I know that our president wants to absolve all tribal sovereignty. And in some ways it's like, okay, well, how does that really work? Like, what's going to happen to all these
always,
nations?
And even Canada's the same way. It's like this fear of they think we're going to uprise, and it's this fear, and it's really, there is nothing there. There's nothing we're going to do, and simply we're just wanting to live
take care of ourselves, right?
take
And
care of
okay, so
ourselves.
like 500 years of resistance, we are like cockroaches. You cannot kill us. You've tried to delete us with alcoholism, with smallpox, with bad food, with starvation,
Commods,
with
yeah.
lack of education, and then all of a sudden after you did all that, oh hey, we're really awesome and beautiful. Now you want to wear our clothes. You want to sing our songs. You want to deck out like us. And then, hey, now, even though you wanted to kill us for it, and it wasn't until President Clinton, it was even legal to do our ceremonies, now you want to pray like us. So where does that change? Where do you think it changes? Does it change with hemp? Is cannabis the five-finger savior?
No,
Is it going to be a bridge for us?
I just go back to like the way I went into my marriage, and the way I still live by my marriage is communication. Communication is key. You can pretty much get through any situation as long as you communicate. The minute you lose communication, that's where everything goes haywire, and we end up wanting to bomb you. I mean, look at what's happening
Right.
here. It's
Yeah.
I understand that, there's some give and take, but when you lose communication, and that's really what it is, they're portraying, oh, you guys are going to be hellions, or you're going to get all this money, or what are you guys going to do, instead of just coming and communicating with us and talking and going, oh, what do you guys want to do? And we show them. And that's where, again, through cannabis and hemp, instead of asking, like I said in Canada, don't ask them. And that's what the Grand Chief said. We won't ask. We'll just do it. And I said, again, before you do it, the key is educate before you regulate. And that's why I say we can establish
That should be
our
like
own
a bumper
regulations.
sticker, like educate before you regulate. It's true.
Well, that's why I say, how can you
Yeah.
regulate if you don't even know what you're educating?
And I think that you
on?
touched on a point about education and the opiate crisis on the res, and all the people who are just suffering from that, and alcoholism. It's generational. It's 100 years deep, right? And then now we have So how do we share that conversation about okay, this is it's been a Schedule 1 accidentally for whatever reasons, not because it actually is, and this is how it can help us come away from an opiate addiction.
Again, goes back to just communication, opening the dialogue, and sitting there. And like they say, I literally went and did community education and had an elder cuss me out and say, get this off my reservation. But after, again, it's how do you react to that? I could have reacted and blew up, but no, it's like, okay, well, you're not gonna deter me from what the main objective is, you know. And once you find your purpose in life, like you say, it's not about cannabis, it's not about hemp, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than me and you, it's bigger than the industry, it's way bigger than that. And when you find that and you know you're in that, there's nothing that can deter you from that. And I go back to, it's just opening dialogue. And like when people say, oh, it's a gateway drug, it's this. Okay, great. Well, where do you get your information at? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, wait, oh, did you go to the same DARE program I did as a kid?
Right.
Oh, I did? Oh, you did? Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's have that discussion.
Yeah.
How did it affect you as it affected me? Mm-hmm. Because obviously, going through the DARE program, going through those programs that you said it did, while being on the reservation, it didn't help. Mm-hmm. And again, when you look at the opiate crisis, it is happening, and it's happening on alarming rates on reservations, higher than any other state or county there is in this country.
Oh, and those opiates are coming from doctors, correct?
And it's coming from actually IHS on the reservations
right.
that do it, but then who runs IHS? It's are the governments.
Right.
So are they addressing the issue? To me,
or
it
are they
goes back
creating
to,
the issue?
Or are they creating the issue, or are they again uneducated that don't know that there really is an issue? And seeing it around. And again, we just recently buried one of our cousins who was in his 30s that died from heroin. And again, there's heroin, there's meth, there's everything on the reservation.
Yeah, the heroin epidemic is just out of control in the entire country. You know, I don't know how heroin got so popular. What the fuck, people?
Well, opiates. I mean,
you know, like,
once opiates get so expensive, then they go to the street drugs.
Right. Yeah,
and it's the same
and
feeling.
A lot of people are, you know, we're just all self-medicating because we're just carrying this generational pain. You know,
Yeah.
and you talk about communicating, and you know, in Indian country, there's a different way of communicating than in secular business. You know, we're not, we don't talk the same, and part of that is like, okay, great, well, we're all talking to each other, but no one's hearing what anyone's saying because they're all hearing it through the filters of what their agenda is. So,
like, oh, you say you guys don't know how to talk to us. I said, don't talk at me, talk to me.
What does that mean? Talk to me. I don't know what does that mean. I am talking to you. I'm looking at you, damn it. You know, and like, and culturally, we're taught when someone's addressing you and they're really schooling you, you don't look at them. You look down, right? So, and in Anglo culture, if you're looking down when someone's talking to you, they're like, oh, you're not paying attention to me. So there's just even like the nonverbal cues that we use in our language, and I'm excited that you're willing to do this hard work because it is really hard work. Communication, that's like probably the hardest job of all. And you know, you're breaking down doors, you're crossing borders, you're still playing with the California crew. You know?
I'm still. I mean, like I say, I do a lot, and like everybody, you know, don't want to put out there like, oh, I do everything. You know, I'm not a jack of all trades, but I'm involved in a lot. And again, like I tell people, you can't do it on your own. It's because, you know, the things I do have a team behind me, and it's all about balance, you know. And it's like I'm here, but everything that supports me is the opposite. You know, my business partner in technology is a woman. My business partner, you know, in the hemp industry size is a woman. My wife is a woman.
Smart man, yeah.
And it's like,
you know,
you got to have that balance.
That life-giving energy, you know, like that's why men would have like 9 wives and stuff, because they were really smart to harness all that life-giving energy into their agenda, you know. But if you want to have 9 wives, you got to have a lot of money, so.
Why just have 9 business partners?
Yeah, exactly, 9 business. And you really, what fool would want 9 wives, you know? Like, I would, like, who would want to deal with 9 women rolling around in a circle about their agenda of what they want?
That's true. I don't know.
That should be like a little story for kids. Anyway, so if you had your perfect scenario, like I would like to see, so we can hemp, anybody can grow hemp on their property in the United States, right? So we have all these reservations that have all this open land that nothing's happening. Are you a part of the conversation about stimulating them to, you know, put those seeds in the ground?
Yeah, I'm trying to reach out to a lot of them, but again, a lot of it in Indian country is because, you know, there are some that have money or wealth, and then there's some that aren't, and you know, and it's mostly the gaming tribes.
Let's clean that up about like money in Indian country, because as soon as somebody thinks here's you're an Indian, oh well, you must get a check. Oh well,
money.
you got education for free. Oh, you get free health care. These are like myths. Right? I mean, these are like giant myths, folks. Giant myths. I mean, you can get money for IHS if you live on the reservation and you have an IHS hospital close to you.
Close
right?
to you.
That's
but then
how
when you
close
look
to
at
you is key.
the funding, it's well underfunded when you're
well
talking
underfunded.
how many. I was talking to the Grand Chief in Canada, and I was like, hey, just curious, how many members do you have? And he's like, I guess roughly 250,000. Like, oh, how many do you
That's a
have? I
big
go,
tribe, man.
about less than 200. And it's
Yeah.
like, really? And I go, well, we're clustered down there in California, but to me, it doesn't matter if you have 250,000 or one. It's still
Right,
here.
and you have to be a recognized tribe as well. Like, just because you're indigenous to this country and you have tribal roots and you know your language and you know your people and you know all these things doesn't mean that you have a card that says, I'm an American Indian.
No, you have to have both, and why I can see both sides is because actually I'm split down to both sides, because I'm enrolled in San Pasqual where my father's at, but my grandfather on my mother's side, he was Achman from Orange County, and somewhat up northern, but they're both not federally recognized. And they claim, well, there is none. Well, how is there none if I'm still standing here today?
Right, how are there none of those if I'm still here?
And why aren't we federally recognized? Well, why aren't you federally recognized when you look at it? Because where's the original reservation? Right in the smack middle of Orange County.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and why were you, and it wasn't even a reservation, this is just where that band of people resided.
And
Like
again,
where Disneyland is now,
To
right?
be federally recognized, you have
to have your land,
you have to
right?
have land.
Like we were talking, my nation, it's not a blood quantum that keeps you on the rolls. It's a land deed, and those land deeds were created in the 1700s when they started collecting, like who was what, and they wanted to get everyone out of North Carolina and over to Oklahoma. So my ancestors went in the trees and lived in the trees for almost 300 years.
Oh, wow.
Up in the, coming down and marrying people and, making the nation grow that way by, bringing other blood in.
It's just, like you say, when you expand out, and that's really, going to Canada, just really not going in, again, I did talk to him what I do and consult and, the project we're working on up there, but it was really just hearing them out, just kind of like, tell me, I'm hearing your nation, I'm humbled and I'm blessed that you even allowed me in your, your chambers with the Grand Chiefs and allowed me into your nation here. Please tell me. And they told me their stories of what their ancestors went through, and it's similar, but it's like, wow, you can see the lot of the intergenerational trauma we have, and it's been for many years, and it's not going to be taken overnight. It's not going to be
right.
I mean, I could still say today that even my parents, we don't even talk about cannabis. We've never even had the conversation about it, or even what I even do in this industry.
Because of their anti...
I guess we just never really had the conversation. It's like...
what do they think you do, Blue? I mean, you're a pretty gosh darn busy guy in the cannabis industry.
I'm just always around that. I guess I never really stopped, I guess, because once I was on this mission of, this is what I was placed here to do, was to help all, and this is how we're going to do it. And again, it's like we're not there to share the project yet, but the project we encompass it encompasses food, which we're calling food sovereignty, and it's how you grow it, and it encompasses cannabis, hemp, it encompasses culture, education. It's really a facility that we're designing that actually...
Is that up in Canada?
We're looking at up there, yeah, that's why we're meeting with them up there, but really it could be up there, and we're going to be branching down here. And
I love the word food sovereignty, which means what that means is that that nation will create all of their food source themselves, right, and not be reliant on external sources.
Yeah, and and again, everybody thinks it's not me doing it. I only have my expertise is really in regulations, policies, compliance, surveillance. And it's really your team. It's like I say, when I got invited, I already had this type of vision, already kind of knew it, but it was like, how am I going to do it myself? Again, I'm not a grower of food. Time I would learn that, it would be way past. Time I would even try to learn what you're doing as a herbalist, I would be already 50 going, oh, hey, Blue, I thought you had that idea. So really, it's from...
It's really about that team thing.
It's team, and really it was each person is there. So who is doing the food side is a good friend, Peter, up there, that is just... He's on it, and they're already starting with strawberries, and it's completely organic, pesticides. There's nothing in there. It's completely, and it's grown by sovereign people on sovereign land. It's going to be so, and what we're really doing is just trying to, give people the right nutrition. Just trying to teach them and saying, well, there's another way, and it's really not bringing anybody or like they say, oh my God, the tribes are gonna, become powerful. It's like, no, we're just, again, if you would look back in history, why have we always just took care of everybody?
Right. We've always took care of
the land?
everybody. And I mean, that's why we have America today, folks, because we took care of your ancestors' asses when they were freezing and dying, you know, that we were feeding them and clothing them and teaching them how to hunt on our lands. So, you know, as people, we've always been really inclusive. And I think that's why it's always shocking to us when it doesn't go our way, when we're like, hey, man, like we invited you here and we fed you and we took care of you and where are you going? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, I know that me personally in my business, like I'm very open-handed with it, and I come from a real generous place with that, and people are always like, wow, you know, you give so much, and they're always so like amazed by it, and I'm just like, you know, that's just my culture. That's just the way I was raised. If I have it and you need it, it is my cultural responsibility to share it with you. You know?
And yeah, that's exactly why everybody says, well, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, again, we're restoring Mother Earth and healing Turtle Island. I mean, that's basically the whole concept.
And that's
of
that,
it.
like, oh, we're restoring Mother Earth and we're healing Turtle Island. Now, okay, so like we are this Earth, you know, we are not separate from Grandmother, you know, it's with her, you know, if her water is poison, you know, we have nothing to drink. If her soil is damaged, we have nothing to eat. If we destroy the air, we have nothing to breathe. So, you know, the Anglo culture really is about separation. You know, it's separation of church and state. You know, God, you are different, you are separate from God, you know, but we're not. Like our indigenous understanding is that we are this earth, we are the creator, and we are here all collectively to help and serve each other.
And like I say, it was always taught to us that we're the keepers of the earth. So, like I say, it doesn't, again, I don't believe in blood degree. Even though our reservation has it, I am a firm believer not in blood degree because there is no such thing as it.
Right. Because when when I got my enrollment card, right, because I was all like hot to get it because it was really important to me. My father didn't speak to me for almost 2 years because he was so irritated that I went and did that I went and got that piece of paper to say what I was, when he had done everything in his life to move as far away from that pain that he could. And then here I was all like, hey, I'm an Indian, I got a card, and he just was so mad he couldn't even yeah, he could not put it together in his head that was important to me. And it took me, you know, 10 plus years to understand why that was so offensive to him. And it's just what you said. You know, like there is no separation by blood quantum doesn't matter. You know, if you are a child of this earth, which, hey, guess what, y'all? Yeah, every single fucking one of you is, all right? And whether you feel it or you don't, it's our responsibility to take care of this planet. It's not this planet's responsibility to care for us. It's ours to care for her. And part of the way that we can do that, and part of the reason why I think cannabis is coming back, and hemp especially, is because of its restorative, regenerative systems, right? Yeah. I mean, if you use CBD, cannabinoids, right, which come from hemp, they'll restore your central nerve system. So it's just common sense. If you put it in the ground, it's going to restore the central nerve system of our great mother.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, again, I could say, and you know, me and my wife are both the same way. You know, we even asked ourselves, now being, you know, many years in this industry and doing all this, you know, we've had to stop and ask ourselves, you know, like, hey, like where we have gone. And like I say, if you would ask me before, I was a stickler too. I would have been like, hell no, my kids weren't going to be around this. And yeah, cannabis, what? Okay, you know, again, but then it wasn't until I learned and learn about the endocannabinoid system and really learn this, and it was like, once you learn it, and that's why I tell people, you know, don't believe me, don't believe anything I say, you know, go and do your research. And then if you don't know something, then I go back to, like my grandma always taught me, if you don't know something, then ask. It's that simple.
Right.
If you don't know, ask. And that's what I teach my kids. Did you know that? No. Well, then why didn't you ask? Oh, I don't know. So
people are so afraid to ask. You're afraid to look stupid. You're afraid that you don't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and you definitely don't know what you don't know. You know, so you have to ask what you don't know. And I think that, you know, we have so much like just pain in our you know, communities because of alcoholism and, you know, drugs and just the whole way they just kind of like threw us away, you know, 500 years ago.
And it still is. Like I tell people, you know, when they say reservation, I go, you guys act like it's a town. It's not. When you look at what reservations or reserves were designed to do, it was like a modern day concentration camp.
Right.
I said we are in our border. Yes, we can go out. It's not like literally like that, but at the same time, when you're living within the community, it's like living within the San Diego, but San Diego does not receive any resources. And the resources you do from the federal government or what they say to take care of you isn't enough to sustain the whole city. What do you think is going to happen?
Right. Yeah, I don't think that people understand that for sure about like the fact that a reservation is not a town, that it's a bordered community that says, you know, if you're part of this nation, you know, you live here. And they were, I mean, now they're not like, you know, cross-fenced, but they were in the 1800s, you know, when they were rounding up all those Plains Indians. Those borders, you know, Pine Ridge had a border. It had a perimeter fence on it for sure. And, you know, like they're, so, you know, Standing Rock Nation, we all know about them because of the whole water situation and the drilling and the mining. So, Vadonia, you know what she's doing now? Like she's the one who kind of like brought it all up and said, hey, look at these guys, this pipeline's coming through my son's graveyard. I'm not going to let it happen. And they've already had a spill. So she's taken on the mantle of growing hemp. Like her and her crew of people are going out there and they're putting hemp plants in where they've already had oil spills.
And really the only way the oil flows is because we keep using the products.
Right, exactly.
So like I say, you know, when it comes back to blood degree, when people go, oh, how much blood? Well, I don't look at that. If you're going to call yourself indigenous or you're going to call yourself Pumiai or Apache, whatever you're going to call yourself, if you truly wholeheartedly believe it, then how can you not be on this with us? Oh. Because again, you see, it's all over. I mean, like you say, look at Earth Day and you see all over TV and everybody talks about it. Only one day out of the year. One day out of the year.
And how many people used styrofoam cups yesterday at Earth Day ceremonies? And how many single-use bottles were left behind? So, you know, like you want to be an Indian, be a good, like I love that 70s commercial of like, you know, the guy with the tear. You know, you like, if you're not as old as me, then you probably don't even know it. But it was so powerful. It's like this, like, you know, of course he's a Sioux because America thinks only Indians are Sioux. And he's rolling down like a river and it's full of garbage. Do you remember that? And he's got one tear going down his eye. And it's like, you know, that was like a message like, hey, people.
Can't say I do. What year was that?
Oh my God, yeah, you were like a thought, you know. But I was a little girl, you know, I was like, you know, 5 or 6 years old. And that commercial really impacted me. It really showed me like, if we don't take care of this planet, it's just going to be garbage. And, you know, I enjoy being in the cannabis industry. I am not happy about the way that things are processing. Like the whole industrial way to process is creating garbage. The whole way to industrially grow, it's retarded. You know, like doesn't Canada have this gigantic greenhouse that's like all solar and open? It's like I think it's like a 50,000 square feet, and it's powered by the sun, the wind, and it has an open, and it's open. Like it's got a retractable roof.
Yeah, I haven't.
You haven't seen that one yet?
But
so what a great way to grow. That's in harmony with the earth. But like Las Vegas has, I don't even know how many warehouses full of, you know, grows that are just sucking on the atmosphere with their, you know, power and using their the water source, which they don't even have any water in Las Vegas. So, you know, 20,000 square foot grow, really, people? This is not what we want to, where we want to see this industry go.
No, like I say, yeah, cannabis is social, and I understand the whole recreational, but again, what is recreational? It's like, what
gladiator fights were recreational at one point.
Well, it's like, what is everybody trying to get out of it, you know?
Yeah, that's the big question is, what are we looking to get out of it?
Where's all the medicinal patients? There's no medicinal products. I mean, when you look, they call medicinal, and you're walking in there going, okay, let's say I'm a medicinal patient, and they go, oh, well, here you go. Well, what's the difference? Show me the medicinal products. There's no medicinal products.
Yeah.
You just get less tax and you get to carry more. Well,
yeah.
Okay, well, that defeats the purpose.
Exactly. So less tax and more product doesn't make you more well, right? So the way that those products are put together is what makes you well.
And then it comes back to the products again with California of how they were segregating us off and saying we can't go in there. But then I asked the question, you know, that nobody can seem to answer is, well, how can we as tribal nations ensure that your products don't come over into our nation?
And they said,
Then how do I ensure that they're even counterfeit? Oh, we can't. We didn't think that far. This is where Tribal Nations we did, and my other partner in technology, we have developed technology to do brand protection. That's what we do. We do brand protection and authentication for cannabis products to make sure that it is actually a legitimate product that's actually happening. And it wasn't built off of, now this technology we have and it's been built off of other industries. So it's actually built off of ISO standards. So we can do product recall. So it's already at that top level going, if it would ever go to nation, and that's one thing we're working on, is doing nation to nation trade, doing our own indigenous international trade. Going, well, why can't we?
right.
Because
if we
again,
have to keep it all in-house, so to speak, then
well,
why
no,
can't
it's just
we?
going back to our indigenous roots and back to our ancestors. Because I asked them in Canada, do you guys stick to your own? Well, no, because I know that why did you find seashells over here, or why did we get desert stuff out here? Well, my tribe is all coastal. We're out here. Well, how did we get certain things? Because we traded. We had different animals, we had different shells, we had different arrowheads, we had different pottery, we had different baskets, we all had different things. So you're telling me there was absolutely no trade? And all I'm doing is going, well, we're just sticking back to our indigenous roots. Well, again, like in Canada, everywhere I go to any tribal nation I go to, I always bring sage, white sage, which is here that we smudge. Well, they don't have that up there. And when I brought it, it's like right away, one of the elders were there was like, I want to take you, doesn't know me, just right away, I want you to meet my family. Well, okay, for what's going on? He's just like, because that is, we don't get that. And how do you know that at a certain age? Because that's old medicine, as they say. And I'm going, wow, again, I was taught by my father and my mother. I've been in it since I used to, in diapers, crawling to sweat. So it's like, that's just our custom and tradition. While at the same time, they have sweetgrass. And it's like, oh, I love sweetgrass. Well, how do we trade?
Right. Right.
Well, it's the same thing. It's just not cannabis. It's
right, exactly. Exactly. And that's why a lot of the products, before I started compounding cannabis, I was compounding every other herb on the planet, right? And and then cannabis just kind of took me and was like, you will do this only. So it's been like that for like 15 years. But now
So you met Blue. No.
Now I'm excited to be able to start blending all of the herbal, recipes that I have with some cannabinoids and seeing where they go. And, we've had conversations of working with the tribes.
Yeah. So much because that just entitles, like I told you can ingest it because, we're sick and, whatever we're going through. But then what do? That's where the food part comes in.
Right.
Because, again, I can honestly say that prior to even in this industry, I was 220 pounds. I was.
Wow.
I lost 55 pounds. My wife lost 100 pounds.
No way. Okay, now I'm looking at his wife, and she is beautiful, and I don't believe this is true. Okay, now, did you guys use Snoop Dogg and Martha, whatever her name is, new formula of CBD that makes you lose weight?
Really?
Super marketing. What's her name? Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart, yeah, her and Snoop made a product, a CBD product, and they're pimping it as a weight loss product. Yeah, with Jenny Craig.
No, actually, we actually went full plant-based, which some say vegan, but we don't say vegan. We say plant-based because otherwise I'm calling myself a hypocrite because I say, well, we use animals in our way. So
right.
Some would say that's animal cruelty because we have their bones and we have their fur.
Right, right, exactly. But we harvest those animals in a ceremonial way, and we appreciate their giveaway. So it's not like, oh, hey, I shot this bird out of the sky and now I got his feathers. It's not like that for us. So
it's like the eagles that are, on our reservation are flying around. It's like, oh yeah, they're very sacred, and we use the eagle feathers and we use them, but we don't just go and
we pray and then we walk a lot and we hope that we find them.
Like
I'm always asking, Wamade to fall from the sky at my feet so I can please just drop from the sky, because birds do that, they do. I had a crow drop from the sky and die at my feet, and I'm bird clan, and crow is my, that's our main medicine, and I was just like, I couldn't even move for like 10 minutes because I was like, what does this mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Is something bad coming? Is something good coming? Because I'm young and I don't really know the truth of anything. And then this bird from my clan is like dead on the ground.
You're like, should I call home now?
So yeah, I did. So I did exactly that. I did what you said. I asked. I reached out to my elders and I said, so hey, guess what happened today? And they were like, oh, I don't know what that means. You should think about it.
Pray on it.
Yeah, pray on it. Think about it. Because that's the other thing is everyone has to come to their own way on themselves.
Yeah.
We have to get there on our own.
And that's kind of how we did, and was kind of changing how we ate. And like I say, I can kind of still go back into the way I thought and the way I was then. And like I say, it just changes your whole mind, the way you look at life, the way you look at everything. And it's you more have to go plant-based because, again, when you look at really the scientific, and again, there's a lot of conspiracy people, oh my God, the animals, and I don't look at that. I don't go on conspiracy because, again, I've been in regulations for so many years. I look at what is the law, what is the policy, and what it reads, and what it reads is what it says. So I kind of look at, okay, what's the science behind it? When I started looking at how much pesticides, herbicides are in there, and then after we had our son, my wife went through a lot of hormone problems, and I started going, well, wait a minute. And again, I did research going, what's going on? We got rid of all our products. We went strictly organic products. We don't go to any of the regular stores and buy any of the products. My kids don't eat Cheetos, none of that. They drink not solely but water, juice once in a while. And, my son would eat a kale salad, and people just look and go, how does he do that? It's, well, because he's
been eating since he was a boy, since he was a
baby.
right,
around 2 years old.
Yeah,
and then he was recently, about a year and a half ago, he was critically injured, and we were in San Diego here at Children's, and it was surprisingly, I thought, okay, Children's, right, the best hospital ever, and they actually told us, well, he's actually the first child that we have that's plant-based, because all the lipids and everything were made out of fish. Again, I can't thank them enough that they actually said, no, we don't do that. They actually formulate it specifically for him for a plant-based.
Wow.
And actually, and through that, that trauma and that going through that with our family, that they actually was surprisingly, because the trauma that he had to his head for being only 3 years old, he sustained no brain swelling and no hemorrhage of the brain, anything. The doctors came and they actually, we had to sign off because they wanted to do studies. They just didn't believe, like, how is this even possible? And they wanted to run tests. They put all his lab reports.
And you think it was the plant-based diet that was?
Well, it was plant-based diet, and he always was on CBD.
Yeah.
We put
right
him on.
there. Right
well,
there.
it actually wasn't
the combination
just,
of both of them together.
It was
sure.
actually the whole plant. It was the whole plant wasn't just the single molecule CBD. What everybody's taking, it was actually the whole plant. And,
right.
After that, they just, well, of course we knew once you're pulling lab reports and tests, you know what's gonna be in there.
Right.
And it's like, well, that was kind of the turning point. Going, well, wait a minute. If you are the so-called experts in Children's Hospital, how can't you explain to me why you have no brain swelling when you have that much trauma? And they actually showed us a 3D scan, and he actually said, I can't, whatever you believe in, that's all I could say, because we can't tell you why. He's like, I've seen kids with just dressers or TVs, the normal stuff, and he goes, that don't walk out of here or have brain swelling. He goes, and it's like intact.
Wow.
And I go, well, I guess, again, we believe in a creator that's, protecting him, but I believe eating plant-based, because when they did pull his records and his lab reports, they were just blown away that his liver count, and they just said he's impeccable and extremely health. And then we gave him more CBD because that was our first experience of withdrawals from fentanyl that they gave. And then hearing fentanyl again on the reservation and hearing all these ODs.
Fentanyl is awful. Yeah, it's such a terrible
very
drug.
Potent. And after seeing that, and it was like, wait, you're giving them what? And it was like, and then again, after they coming off withdrawals and never seeing a let alone a person, but a child withdraw from an opiate like fentanyl it's just, you don't want to see that. And
yeah, I'm sure, and especially when it's your
like
child.
the nurses says, well, I can't tell you not to give it to him, but we can administer it. Okay, well, fine. I already know what it's going to do. And they brought him back, and I mean, and it's been a year and a half, but I mean, full 100% recovery.
Well, that's a huge blessing, and I'm really, really grateful that you guys are there with that.
And I kind of believe that all that kind of, healing your body, and again, what you're putting in your body at the same time, it's like, wow, he is.
Yeah, nothing makes me crazier than watching somebody feed their 3-year-old Gatorade and Cheetos.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like I think that is a form of child abuse. I
Half the
sincerely
time
do.
it's these hot Cheetos and
Hot Cheetos, yes, hot
and everybody
freaking
thinks
Cheetos.
we're crazy, and
Yeah.
it wasn't it. It's because when we took our daughter to the doctors, you know, because she's turning 13, getting her checkups, it was a big old posting on there, and when she was reading it, hey Dad, what's this? Oh, I don't know, what is it? She was reading it, and it talks, and it was in the doctor's office talking about hot Cheetos, that the ingredients that are in there to not to have it because they're linking it to messing up brain development or something in children. And then I was like, oh, I don't know, what is it? She started reading it, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, is this really?
Yeah, but hey, you can get it on aisle 7. Okay?
Right? And then you have all these other posters about, you know, HPV and all these other things, and I'm going, well, okay, you're displaying it because you want us to get informed. Okay, great. Well, what's this? And everybody says, well, you're crazy. Where'd you learn that at? My own doctor's office.
Right. Yeah.
So, but they're giving it to kids, and yeah, you see it
But
all
don't
the time.
give your child any cannabinoids. And, you know, don't do that because that, you know, don't help your children in any way. That's the other conversation. You know, I treat a lot of kids. That was, you know, kind of the foundation of my business when I started doing cannabis. It was childhood brain cancer. And, you know, I would have conversations with doctors that would call me and they would literally say things like, I'm putting my license on the line just calling you, but what I saw with this kid blew my mind and I just need to know. And now the doctors call and they just say, this is Dr. whoever from wherever, and I saw a client who blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, that's kind of cool in the last 15 years to have the conversation change like that around cannabis. Yeah. You know, that most people are not so afraid, but I still know that if you treat your kid like that in a state that's, you know, semi-legal kind of, you have the opportunity to lose your child to CPS. So there's a lot of social injustice, you know, on the tribal reservations, off the reservations, in the ghetto, in the Mississippi Delta. We're a freaking flat ass mess. So how we get better is we work together. Yeah.
Yep, we work together, and like I say, I've seen all these, you know, equality programs throughout the city, and you know, one of them was here in San Diego. You know, they're looking at passing. And again, when I look at it, I go, okay, I understand, you know, other races that were affected, but where you're failing is that you're not opening the discussion and dialogue is with indigenous, especially here in San Diego when you have so many tribes here. Oh. And again, when I look at it and go, are you really looking at the statistics? And again, when you look at PL 280, which gave criminal jurisdiction from the state to on the reservation, my question is, did you arrest any Native Americans on reservations for cannabis at all?
Probably not, right? Like zero?
Well, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like,
but nobody.
We're at Swan, like, they had some guy was, like, super hepped up on cannabis at Swan, you know, because, like, really, people who smoke weed are in their house.
Yeah, but
right?
It could be, but then again, when you look at what has happened on reservations and when they have criminal jurisdiction over us, well,
right.
Was, like I say, if you're going to look at equality, what is the definition of equality? And what is the definition
I mean, that's a whole nother
justice?
topic if we start getting into like how the tribal police and secular police work and why we're missing over 10,000 women in Indian country that no one's tracked, and how you can get shot in the head on a reservation and still call it a suicide. I mean, there's just like, and that, you know, we don't have any jurisdiction as tribal officers, right? They don't have any jurisdiction off the reservation, even though the criminal comes and commits the crime on the res. Once they're off the res, then we have to engage the secular police to go after them.
Yeah,
this is why none of our crime gets solved.
And like I say, but I'm going prior to, you know, tribal police. Yeah, there's a lot of us that have tribal police now, but I'm talking prior to that, you know, back in the 80s and stuff, you know, when I was born in 81, and, you know, growing up and seeing all my uncles and seeing the stuff on the reservation, again, I know there was a lot of meth, but you're telling me any of those persons did not get prosecuted for cannabis, or did they? And again, when you look at urban Indians, they are natives, so were they ever prosecuted? And are they having the opportunity for equality programs here in the state? I mean, they keep talking about equality, and like we say, you keep failing to, I guess, include indigenous people, because when you look at definition of equality, it's supposed to be for all.
For all.
But
right.
Yet you're going, oh, well, we don't need to talk about that. Well, wait a minute.
So to wrap it up, this has been really, there's so much in this conversation. I really hope that I hope y'all listen to us because we're really interesting. Um, going forward, what's your what's the next year look like for what you're about, and how can people get in touch with you if they are so moved to want to get on on the same page with you and help
Well,
out?
I mean, again, we're working on this project, but I work both indigenous, cannabis industry, I guess you could say, and non-indigenous cannabis. So I work both, but we're looking at we're doing a project down here with our technology. We're looking at doing again hemp homes of that project. We're also looking at a facility. So I'm involved in a lot. Moving forward, we're going to be involved in a lot this next coming year, coming forward, and really pushing the issue and again really trying to revive the medical market. That's more majority. The rec is here. It's like that comes down to just basically packaging at the end of the day.
It does, yeah.
Because you see everybody has that 80, 90, 100%, whatever you want to call it. It's like it's just gonna keep going the same thing. It's just like alcohol. At the end of the day, wine's wine, beer's beer. It all does the same stuff.
Right.
But really, when it comes to the medicinal, where's the medicinal? And that's kind of really what I'm focusing on is more the health. Preserving not just for indigenous but for all. It's like where's the medicinal patients? Because again, a year or so ago, again I reached out to you, when my sister had stage 3, stage 4 breast cancer, and that helped. But then again, it's back again. Not in her breast, but it's in her spine. And again, I'm looking at going, okay. And again, she told me, hey, you know what? It was how I was eating, and I was like, whoa, okay. So again, that's going back to well, you can supply medicinal cannabis if you want, but it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right.
We need to be together and going, well, it needs to be a regiment plan. So that's kind of what I'm working on, is trying to work on a plan that says this is what you eat, how you should eat, and this is, again, medicinal products you should take, and the way it should work all simultaneously for, to be a well-being.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out here, Blue.
Oh.
I always enjoy visiting with you. And for all of you folks out there, here's the deal. If you really want to heal, you have to heal yourself. I just heard Oprah say this morning, so I'm going to totally steal it from Oprah. If you want to heal yourself first, and then take your self-healing to your family, and then take what you learned from healing yourself and your family to your community and heal your community. And then when you've learned from healing yourself, your family, and your community, reach out to the world. Okay? So you're first, you're number one. And the way that you take care of yourself is with good food, clean water, and a good thought. Like over here in our culture, in our nation, we're really big on prayer. Not prayer for asking, help me, I'm so pitiful, but bring me into alignment. Help me find the way that I can be of service to this great thing called the earth that houses me. All right? So take care of your home, take care of yourself, and thank you for spending some time with us.